Today in this video we're going to be making this little guy, and I believe it's pronounced Nigiri for the type of food that he is. He's pretty easy to make up. He does have some quick color changes, but other than that he works up really well and really quick. So let's take a look at what we're going to need to get this little guy put together. The colors of yarn we're using today are red, orange, white, and then just a little scrap of pink for the cheeks. I'm using a 3.25 millimeter crochet hook, scissors, safety eyes in whatever size or style you'd like, a stitch marker, yarn needle, and polyfill. The first color we're going to start off with is white to make the rice, and we'll start off by making a magic ring. And I make mine by placing the yarn over my index and middle finger, bringing it around and crossing over, and then bringing it around the top so I've got two parallel lines. I'll take my hook and I'll place it under the first line of yarn, bring it around, bring the hook under where it crosses, and that brings a little loop on my hook. And then on the top of my hand again, I'll grab up the second line of yarn and then I'll just pull it through. And that makes our magic ring. And then what we're going to do is we're going to crochet 6 into our magic ring. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we'll just take our tail and pull that little gap closed. And I usually don't pull too tight after making my magic ring and putting the first 6 in there. I'll pull that a little tighter after the second round, otherwise it makes it hard to get into that first stitch in round 2. So that's round 1, where we have 6 single crochet into our magic ring. I have my stitch marker in place, and for round 2 we're going to increase in each of the 6 stitches. So in each stitch put 2 single crochet. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and here's 12. Now I'll give that tail just a better pull to really close up that gap so there's nothing in the center. It just all looks completely closed up. So we've got 12 single crochet for round 2, and in round 3 we're going to be increasing to 18. We're on round 3 and we're going to be increasing from 12 stitches to 18, and to do that, in our first stitch we're going to increase, and then in our second stitch just a single crochet. So we're going to do 2 single crochet in the first stitch followed by a single crochet in the next. So we've got our increase and then a single crochet. 1, 2, and 1. Increase and single crochet, and our final increase for round 3, and a single crochet. And here we are, we're up to 18 stitches. We're on round 4 and we're going to do another increase where we're going to increase from 18 stitches to 24. And we'll do that by increasing in our first stitch, single crocheting in the next, and then another single crochet. So again, we'll do an increase and follow that by 2 single crochet. there's increase, 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, almost done, increase, 1 and 2, and then an increase, and then 1 and 2. All right, we are up to 24 stitches on round 4, and then we'll be working on rounds 5 through 14 next, and that's going to be just single crocheting 1 in each stitch. We are ready to start rounds 5 through 14, so that's 10 rows or 10 rounds, and what we'll do is we will just single crochet 1 in each of the 24 stitches. And so this is a really good time to put on some music or a video and just keep crocheting for those 10 rounds. And what I'll have you do is I will have you work on those rounds on your own, and then when we meet back up, we'll continue finishing the rice together. So once again, just single crochet 1 in each of the 24 stitches for rounds 5 through 14. And I'll meet you back here after you've completed round 14. We've completed rows 5 through 14, and this is a good place to stop and put in our safety eyes. On my original, I placed my safety eyes 1 round above the original magic ring and just kind of spaced them. I think there's maybe 1 or 2, it's kind of hard to see, 1 or 2 stitches apart. So what I'll do is I will just take this and just kind of place in the safety eyes and just kind of look and see, yeah, that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and just get the backings on, and then once I've got the safety eyes on, I think the next thing I'm going to do is get some stuffing placed in. So let me just get this other backing on, and that is all set. And then from here we'll just take some stuffing. We don't have to stuff it all the way to the top, but just to get something to kind of form the shape. And I don't have it stuffed really full. I have it so it kind of has a flat, the top and bottom, I kind of have a flat surface, so it's not just a big, kind of like big bubble or cylinder. It's just kind of more of an oval. So we've got some stuffing in, and then from here on out what we're going to do is for rounds 15, 16, and 17 we're going to do decreases to finish off the rice. I've popped my stitch marker back in and I'm ready to start round 15, where we're going to decrease from 24 stitches to 18. And I'm going to do that by doing an invisible decrease where I place my hook under the front loop only of the first stitch, the front loop only of the second stitch. I pull through those 2 stitches until I have 2 on my hook, and then I just pull through those, and that does an invisible decrease. And then I'm going to single crochet 1 in the next stitch and 1 in the stitch after that. So again, it's front loop, pull through those 2 and pull through again, followed by 2 single crochet. And that'll get us a decrease from 24 to 18 stitches. And so just keep going, 1, 2, got our decrease, and you can definitely decrease whichever way works best for you. That's just the method I use. All right, so there's decrease, 1, 2, grab up my yarn, there we go. Gotta get back on track. We've got a whoops, our final decrease, and then 1 and 2. So we're down to 18 stitches, and that was round 15. We are on round 16 where we're going to decrease from 18 stitches to 12, and again we'll just do our decrease and then follow that by a single crochet. We've got our, whoops, kind of struggling here. All right, there we go. Decrease, single crochet, and after this round we'll add any more stuffing, and that way just kind of gets it filled out a little bit more. And then after our final round, if we need to, before we sew it closed, we can also add in a little stuffing there. And single crochet, decrease, whoops, come on, stitch marker, and single crochet, and then our final decrease. Boy, this round is a challenge. And a single crochet. I'm just gonna pull out my hook, grab a little more stuffing, and again, I'm not gonna overstuff, but just add a little bit more. And then if I need to, before we sew everything up, that would be another opportunity to add some more stuffing in. So there we go. We finished round 16 and we're getting ready to start on round 17 where we'll decrease from 12 stitches to 6. We are on our final round, round 17, and what we're going to do is we are just going to decrease 6 times in a row. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and lastly 6. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip stitch in the next stitch. And what we'll do is just take our scissors and cut off the length of tail to sew that little gap closed. And I'm just going to kind of squeeze this and kind of get an idea if it's stuffed enough for me. If not, I'll just add some more stuffing in. And once we get it stuffed, we'll next sew that little gap closed. So I've got the stuff to where I want it, and now it's time to just sew that little gap closed. And what I like to do is just come from the inside out, going through that front loop only, and I go through each of those 6 front loops, just working from the inside out. And then once I get through all of my loops, I can just go ahead and pull that tight, and it just kind of cinches closed that little gap. And then I just bring my yarn needle in through the center and come out through the body and back in a couple times just to kind of secure everything in place. And then we can trim that little bit off. And if there's any part sticking out, you can just go ahead and squeeze, and that'll kind of just bring it right back inside. And there we go. We've got the rice part all finished. And then the next part we're going to be working on is the fish area on the top. So I've got my red yarn ready, and that's what we're going to start off for the fish. It can go pretty quickly with the color changes when we're going from orange, white, red, orange, but we only have to do that a couple of times, and there's only 16 rows in the fish, and we'll be working on the tail parts separately. So let's go ahead and get our red yarn, and we're going to go ahead and make our magic ring. And then in our magic ring, we're going to crochet 6. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we'll just go ahead and pull that closed. And so that is round 1, where we have a 6 single crochet into our magic ring. We are on round 2, where we're going to increase from 6 stitches to 8 and then do our first color change. So in our first stitch, we're going to go ahead and increase, and then we're going to single crochet in the second stitch and then single crochet in the third. And what I'm going to do, and you can definitely do your color change whichever way works best, but I'm just going to take my orange yarn, lay it over my working yarn, and crochet over it for the next couple stitches. So in our fourth stitch, we're going to again do an increase, and then we're going to single crochet into the next stitch. Let me pop my stitch marker out. And in my final stitch, I'm going to insert my hook, pull my red yarn through, but I'm going to complete the stitch with my orange yarn. So instead of pulling my red yarn through those 2 loops, I'm just going to pull my orange. And that's going to get me all set up for the next round in orange. So we now have 8 stitches in round 2, and then in round 3 we're going to work with orange yarn and we're going to increase to 12 stitches. Okay, round 3 we're working with orange yarn. We're going to be increasing to 12 stitches, and I am going to cut off the red yarn, and that way I just try to, it's kind of hard with all these color changes, but try not to have too many long pieces of yarn to work with. So let's go ahead and get started with our orange. And in the first stitch, I'm going to go ahead and do an increase. And in the next stitch, a single crochet. We're going to increase, followed by a single crochet. And we're just going to work that all the way around. We've got our increase, and then a single crochet, increase, and a single crochet. And you can definitely crochet over any of the loose ends just to kind of secure them and help get them out of the way, whichever way works best for you. But we're now up to 12 stitches on round 3, and we'll be increasing to 18 in round 4, still working with the orange. So round 4, we're increasing to 18 stitches from 12, and I'm going to try to crochet over some of these tails just to kind of get them out of the way. But in our first stitch, we're going to increase, and then in the second stitch, we're just going to single crochet. And so pretty much the same pattern as our last round. So we'll go ahead and then increase, and then single crochet. So we've got our increase, single crochet, increase, single crochet, and then we're on our last increase, and our final single crochet for this round, which we're now up to 18 stitches. And then we're going to be working in round 5, where we'll increase in with orange to 24 stitches and then do a color change to white. Let's start on round 5, where we're going to increase from 18 stitches to 24 and color change to white. So our pattern will be to increase in our first stitch and then single crochet one in the next stitch and then one in the stitch after that. So again, we'll be increasing, and we'll follow that by 2 single crochets. So there's 1, 2. Got our increase. There's 1, 2, increase. There's 1, 2. And then what I'm going to do here is just place that white yarn over my working yarn and crochet over it. So we got to increase. One, 2, get that in place. So there's the increase, and then we're going to single crochet 1. Whoops, oh goodness. All right, and then I'll pop my stitch marker out, and again for my color change, I'll just go through, start off like I'm going to do a regular single crochet with orange, and then at the end just pull through with the white. And I'm ready for round 6 to work in white. And what we're going to do in round 6 is we're just going to single crochet in each of the 24 stitches in white, but we're also going to get ready for our next color change, which will go back to red. We are on round 6, and all we're going to do is single crochet 1 in each stitch with our white yarn, and then at the end of this round we're going to go ahead and color change back to red. And 24 stitches is as wide as this gets, so we won't be doing any more increases. So we've got our white yarn, and we'll just single crochet 1 all the way around, and I'm just going to grab up some of this extra yarn from the tails, just kind of weave those in. Just kind of bend that in the direction I want. It always wants to flip in the opposite direction. Okay, so let's see here. We're getting towards the end. I'm just going to grab up my red yarn and place it over my working yarn. And for me, that just really locks that red yarn in place so it doesn't slip out while I'm trying to do a color change. Okay, so, right, whoops, almost done. There we go. Now we're ready for our last stitch. Start off with white, and we'll just pull through with red. Now we're going to be doing the same thing in round 7, where we're going to just single crochet 1 in each stitch with our red, but get ready at the end to do a color change back to orange. Alright, we are on round 7, and we'll just start single crocheting 1 in each stitch with our red. And I've got my orange yarn ready, so when I get to the end of this round, I'll be able just to get that ready for the color change. So again, we're just single crocheting 1 in each of the 24 stitches. I'll grab up that tail. I don't mind color changes, even if there's a bunch of them. It just seems like there's so much extra yarn just kind of hanging around while you're trying to get through the rounds. So there we go. And coming on to the home stretch. All right. Grab up my orange yarn, place it over my working yarn, crochet over it, and then in the final stitch, we'll just switch it over to orange. And there we go. We've got our color change back to orange. And then for rows 8 through 10, we're just going to be crocheting with orange all the way around. And then at the end of row 10, we'll switch back to white. Okay, for rounds 8 through 10, we're just going to go ahead and single crochet 1 in each stitch all the way around for the 24 stitches. And then at the very end of round 10, we're going to go ahead and switch to white. And you can definitely color change however works best for you. But I'll have you go ahead and complete rounds 8, 9, and 10. And then once we've switched to white, we'll meet back up and just kind of continue working through the next set of color changes where we go again into white, red, and then back to orange. And that will be the worst of all the color changes. So once you've completed round 10 and switched over to your white yarn, we'll meet back up and continue on with the rest of the fish. We are on round 11, where we are now going to single crochet 1 in each of the 24 stitches with our white yarn. And then I have my red yarn sitting here ready for the color change from white to red. Sorry if you're hearing some loud noise in the background. All of a sudden a truck is just parked outside and it is just making all sorts of loud noises, and I don't even know what the heck they're doing. But hopefully they'll be done here soon. So we're just going around each stitch in white. Grab some more yarn. And crochet over this tail a little bit. Okay. There we go. Start getting ready for my red. So this should be the last time we're going to be using red. Let me look at my other, yep, this should be the last time for red in this project. So we'll go ahead and switch out. There we go. And we will be ready for round 12, where we're going to go ahead and single crochet once again in all 24 stitches with red, and then we'll do our final color change to orange, and then we're all done with color changes. We'll just finish out the rest of the fish in orange. Okay, round 12 with our red yarn, and just one single crochet in each stitch to the end where we'll do our final color change to orange. And the noisy truck just left, so we're good to go on that. Oh, whoops, there we go, get back in there. Okay. And just keep going, one in each stitch. And then with the fish, the nice thing is we don't have to place any stuffing in this one or add any safety eyes or anything else. We'll just be leaving this to be flat. And let's see. There we go. Almost done. And I'll grab up my orange. And although I don't find the color changes to be too bad, I'm always ready to be done with them. But I like the finished result. Okay, a little more red yarn. And last stitch in red. Okay, there we go. We've finished our final color change round, and we'll be working the rest of these in orange, and that'll be rows 13, 14, 15, and 16. So we're almost done. We are on round 13, and 13 will be our last round where we're just going to single crochet one in each stitch. After this, we'll be decreasing. But we got one more easy round. And good time to grab up the last of those tails that are just kind of flopping around and kind of weave those in. And once we get to the little tail pieces, they will seem like a cakewalk after doing all the color changes, because we won't have to worry about any of those in the little tail pieces. And those work really quick. Okay, almost done. And there we go. Last couple stitches. And there we go. We are completed with round 13, and then we'll be working in round 14 where we're going to decrease from 24 stitches down to 18. Round 14, we're decreasing from 24 stitches to 18, and we're going to do that by doing our decrease, and then following that by one single crochet and then another single crochet. So again, we're decreasing and single crocheting in the next stitch and single crocheting in the stitch after that. Decrease. There's 1 and 2. Decrease. 1, 2, decrease. There's 1, 2, and our final decrease for row 14, and then 1 and 2. And there we go. We've completed round 14 and we're down to 18 single crochet. For round 15, we're going to decrease from 18 stitches to 12. So we'll go ahead and decrease and then single crochet 1 after. So again, we'll decrease followed by 1 single crochet. There we go. Decrease, single crochet, come on yarn, decrease, and single crochet. So this round goes pretty quick. There we go. And then we will decrease for our final decrease in this round. And there we go, single crochet. And that is round 15, and we're down to 12 stitches. We're on our final round, round 16, and we're just going to decrease 6 times in a row to get down to 6 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4. Five and 6. Well, hopefully 6. There we go. And then we'll just end this by slip stitching in the next stitch. If I could get in there. There we go. And then we're just going to leave a tail. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to take where you can see the color changes as far as like where it changes on the back. And that's the part that's going to be the bottom. So when you're laying it on the rice, you're not going to be able to see all that. It's just going to be smooth colors all the way on the top. And then what we'll do is we'll just stitch this closed, and pretty much we're just going to stitch it flat. So we're just going to kind of come in with a couple stitches and just kind of go over that so it's all closed up. And then we'll just kind of take our yarn tail, go in and just kind of slide it under some of the stitches to kind of secure it, and that way it doesn't slip out. And if you've got a little bit of a leftover tail, you can just kind of stuff it in there. But that closes everything up, and then at the end where we stitch close, that's where we're going to put the little tail pieces. So we'll go ahead and work on the tail next. For our tail, we're just going to be using the orange yarn, and we're going to start off by making a magic ring. In our magic ring, we're going to crochet 4 single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we'll just pull that closed. So that's round 1 of 7 for our tail, and we've got 4 single crochets into our magic ring. In round 2, we're going to increase from 4 stitches to 6, and in our first stitch, we'll increase, and in our second stitch, we'll do a single crochet. In the third stitch, increase. Oops, I kind of got my yarn all tangled. There we go. And in our fourth stitch, a single crochet. And that'll get us up to 6 stitches for round 2. Round 3, we're going to increase from 6 stitches to 8, and we'll go ahead and increase in our first stitch, single crochet in the second, single crochet in the third, increase in the fourth, single crochet in the fifth, and then single crochet in the sixth stitch. And that brings us up to brings us up to 8 single crochet for round 3. Round 4 will increase from 8 stitches to 12, and we'll do that by increasing and following that with a single crochet. So we've got our increase and our single crochet, and that's the pattern we'll work all the way around. Increase, there we go, single crochet, increase, and then single crochet. And now we're up to 12 stitches. Rows 5 and 6, we're just going to single crochet 1 in each of the 12 stitches for both rounds. So we'll just go ahead and work through those really quick. So this is round 5, and we're going to just complete 1 in each of the 12 stitches. Okay, and there we go. That's the end of round 5. And I'll just pop in my stitch marker. And then for round 6, we're just going to do the same thing. Single crochet 1 in each of the 12 stitches. And we are so close to being done with the tail. We just got one more round to work on. Okay, so we are at the end of round 6. Okay, so we've finished rows 5 and 6 where we just single crocheted 1 in each of the 12 stitches. Round 7, we're just going to decrease 6 times in a row and that'll get us from 12 stitches down to 6. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then what we'll do is we will just slip stitch into the next stitch to kind of fasten off. And then we will leave a length of tail for sewing onto the main body part of the fish. And what I'll have you do is go back and make a second one of these, and then we'll go ahead and start getting everything put together. Now that we have both of the tails completed, we're just going to kind of sew them a little bit at an angle onto the body of the fish. And so the first one I'm just going to take and I'm just going to kind of come in, so the little hole at the end, well, that'll be where the edge of one tail will be, and then it'll also be where the edge of the other tail will kind of start. I hope that makes sense. It's just however you want to place them, but that's kind of where I put mine. So they're kind of coming out a little bit at an angle from the end of the tail. And to sew this on, I'm going to make sure I've got the color changes where it's not real smooth at the bottom. And then I'm just going to come in kind of where that little hole was where we closed everything up at the end of the body. And as far as sewing on, I'm just going to pull the tail in through that center part. I'm going to come out a couple stitches and grab the opposite side and just kind of pull that down so it just kind of holds the little tail in place. And then I'm just going to sew up from the body, if I can grab some, into the front loop of the tail, come down the next front loop, and then into the body. And I'm just going to do that all the way around, and I'll do that on both, and that'll just kind of sew everything in just to kind of give it that finished look. So go ahead and get your tails sewn on, and then once we get done with that, we'll go ahead and put the fish part onto the rice. For sewing on the fish to the rice, I just put some orange yarn onto my yarn needle, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up through the body of the rice and just kind of come up close to the top of the head, kind of near the eyes, and just kind of pull through. And I'll just leave a little tail hanging at the body because I'll weave that in after we're done sewing. And then I've got the kind of the rough side that's going to go onto the body, and then I'm going to go ahead and just sew through the bottom layer. So the needle's not going to come all the way through. It's just going to kind of work through that bottom layer so you don't see any of the stitches. And again, if you've got a better way of doing it, absolutely. Sewing is not exactly my forte. I do it, but I don't do it that well. And so it'll just kind of come up and then just go in through the fish and then back down through the body, all the way around just with that bottom layer. And it doesn't take a whole lot to keep this in place. It's just kind of holding it down. And then I'll do that all the way around. And I won't do the tail. I'll just leave it so the tail kind of just lifts up. But it's just as far as the fish body part. I'll just go ahead and do some stitches to hold that in place. And then once you get that done, just weave the yarn through the body a few times and then just snip it off. And then with the tail of the little yarn sticking out at the bottom, again, I like to go ahead and just weave that through a couple times too. That way nothing slips out and it just kind of keeps everything secure. And that should be all it takes for sewing. And so once we get that done, we'll just go ahead and add a little blush to the cheeks. Okay, we've got everything sewn on, and now we're just going to put a little blush on the cheeks, and I'm going to do that by using a little scrap of pink yarn. You can also take some makeup and just put a little pink under each eye, and that'll work as well. But for the yarn, I'm going to try to come in under the fish so you don't really see a whole lot. Come under the center of the eye. So I'm coming up right under here, pulling that through, leaving a little bit so I can weave that in, and then just coming out a couple stitches from the eye, and then bringing, so I'll come over a couple stitches, bring it in, and then bring the yarn needle out from under the middle of this eye, and that gives me the one little line of blush, and then just come through a couple stitches over here, and then just pull that and weave the tail through just a couple times. And that'll give you those little pink cheeks, and then you can just kind of weave this one underneath the fish part. And so we'll have that all done, and then it'll kind of give you this finished look. I didn't put a face on, but if you did want to, that wouldn't be too hard to do. You could pretty much do the same thing as with the cheeks. You could just kind of come under and maybe just put a little, sew a little V for a smile. I don't know how well this will look, but let's go ahead and just try it and see if I can get that to come up and just see how that looks. We'll just kind of bring it. So yeah, you could put a little happy face onto your, okay, how did they say it? Oh my goodness, is it Nigiri? Oh my gosh, I just completely forgot how you even say this. But I think they come out really cute, and I hope that you were able to follow along with the tutorial. As far as, like, I know there was a lot of color changes coming pretty quick along the fish part, but I'd love to see whatever you've made. And if you want to show me anything you've completed, you can tag me on Instagram. I'll leave that information. And I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Otherwise, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.